We've got new information. This is the case out of Florida, of course, involving those classified documents. Probably the longest case in all of the cases involving President Trump, because you've got classified documents, you've got a number of Presidential Records Acts, a number of different laws that come into play. And Jack Smith doesn't like the fact that Judge Cannon in this case went to both sides, the prosecution and defense, and said to propose a jury instruction that she would then kind of mold into one instruction for the jury that they would ultimately get. And Logan, Jack Smith doesn't want the Trump defense team to have any role in this, but he specifically got angry with what instructions they would like to include.
What's happening right now? So they're going up there, and now there's an argument over who gets to hear the rules or what rules get to be presented?
One thing the judge asked to do is prepare jury instructions that the judge will deliver to the jury. So what is the jury trying to find? What's their job here? And so you ask both sides to present, and then the judge kind of puts it together and then ultimately get both sides to agree, okay, we're okay with these jury instructions. And there was a filing on Tuesday night from Judge Cannon asking both sides to propose jury instructions that would take into account both Trump's view of the Presidential Records Act, which dictates how records created during a presidential term must be handled and later archived. And it even allows for some records to be considered personal property of the president. And Smith's team that said that if you allow that, it distorts the trial because we're saying that everything he took is not covered by the Presidential Records Act. But remember, the president can declassify documents, so obviously that will be something potentially that President Trump argues in court. So you can't just have a one-sided jury instruction that says the only thing you're supposed to find is how guilty is Donald Trump based on what Jack Smith said. You have to also provide the jury about what Donald Trump's legal team is going to argue in response to the prosecutors. And so Jack Smith, in a typical move, wants it his way or no other way. And again, he's gone after this judge multiple times. Ultimately, he should have a say. The Trump team should have a say so that the jury, even though I don't think this case should even be moving forward, but so that the jury ultimately understands what each side is arguing.
Yeah, and what our producer Will just said is that these instructions aren't even handed out until the end of the trial.
Right. This comes at the very end. So you go through a whole trial, and then the judge says, okay, this is what you need when you go back and deliberate. This is what you're trying to figure out. Do you believe that President Trump was doing this in good faith under the Presidential Records Act or in bad faith taking classified documents? And there'll be a whole list of other things too. But what I point out in this case as well, it's the most complicated case of all of these. Georgia got very complicated because of the whole Fani Willis situation, the appeal now on Fani Willis and kicking out the special counsel by the judge. So that one's kind of been delayed as well. But this one we always knew was probably not going to be able to be even close to being finished before people started voting for the actual president of the United States, not just the primary being over, but the president. And this, again, shows you why it keeps getting delayed.
And what we're seeing now is the poll numbers either not change or positively affect President Trump. Now, I don't put a lot of credit in these polls. You're talking about a handful, sure, a few thousand people that are polled. But right now, one of the news stories, and they're covering everywhere right now, is that Trump is leading Biden in 6 of the 7 swing states. Now, it is close. And I think no one is going to take back that this election at the end of the day will be close.
Trump is up 5 points in Arizona. That's a little bit above the margin of error. In Georgia, it's very close, just +1 Trump, which we know Georgia is going to be a super battleground as of now, though I think depending on the economy and how Biden kind of proceeds with his campaign, that could also change significantly. He benefited a lot in Georgia on COVID and the ballots, the drop-off ballots, all those kind of things. In Michigan, this is an interesting one. It's still within the margin of error, but it shows Trump up 3. And again, these are the kind of states that Donald Trump won that changed the electoral map in 2016. These were almost impossible states for presidential Republican candidates to win. They would try hard. They would work hard. They'd sometimes get close, but usually by the end.
Very union-driven.
But he's done well amongst
liberal,
them.
more traditional liberal states, because he's not coastal liberals.
But he's done better with the populism message, even with union voters. You go to North Carolina again. Trump now up 6 points That's outside the margin of error. Nevada up 4. That's outside of a margin of error usually, or right on the edge.
Yep.
And then you look at, Pennsylvania, which again, if you pull off Pennsylvania, Florida, Ohio, and those are earlier in the night states, I mean, you're on a pretty good track to being elected. And right now with a 4-point lead. Again, in Pennsylvania, and that's a 3-point lead in Pennsylvania. In Wisconsin, you've got a dead tie at 46%. Wisconsin, of course, we know, it's a difficult state. It's got even more liberal. But what I think is important here for Logan is like what you said. With all that he's faced, with all the negative attention, that people are realizing this is a complete 100% lawfare attack on President Trump, pulling out all the stops to try and hurt him in court, financially, legally, and almost kind of throw him off his game. And instead, voters are responding saying, this is disgusting that you're doing this to a leading presidential candidate, one who I may not even have loved, but now I'm thinking, you know what? You guys hate him so much. There must be a reason why, and I want to know why. And I think it's because he's willing to actually take you and that D.C. establishment on like he did the first time and pay the consequences like he's doing right now. If you put RFK in the mix with Biden and Trump, in Arizona, it stays exactly the same, +5 Trump, 39-34 Biden. It is, again, the numbers go down a little bit, but it's still +5 Trump. In Georgia, it's +3 Trump. That actually goes up a couple for Donald Trump. In Michigan, it goes to +2 Trump. That's one less than if RFK wasn't in it. So it goes from a +2 instead of +3. So, I mean, you were talking about, a +1. These are all within margin of error. If you go to North Carolina, interestingly enough, where you've got Biden at 43 and 49 Trump, if you throw in RFK, it's again, it goes up to +8 Trump. So in North Carolina, so he actually does. RFK is hurting Biden more there. But then you go to Nevada, about the same, +4 Trump. It's with RFK in it. +3 Trump. +4 Trump without him in it. You go to Pennsylvania, +3 Trump with him in it. +3 Trump without him in it. And Wisconsin, instead of it being tied at 46, it gives Biden a 3-point lead. So that would be, again, the only state that RFK is hurting Trump in
the swing states.
The swing states would be Wisconsin, and that point +3, it was in a state that was tied, and the other poll is still within a margin of error. So right now it's really unclear that he's hurting either side. It might be more state, like I said, Logan, state to state it could have an influence, and that's why you got to even go to the micro level. The macro level may not tell us the story here.